Hi, I'm Uwe from Objectbox. I'm going to show you how to add and use Objectbox in your Android Java project. So all the steps I'm walking through here you can find on the docs.objectbox.io page, specifically the Getting Started page. Alright, now let's switch to our Android project. This is a regular project created with the Android Studio new project wizard, so there's nothing special about it. The first thing we're going to do is to add the Objectbox plugin to this project. To do that, find the project's build Gradle file. You can see that here on the left. I'm going to open this, and here in the build script block at the top, we're first going to add a variable to store the version of Objectbox we want to use, so we can easily change it if Objectbox updates. Also make sure that this is actually the latest version by checking the documentation. Now down below here in the dependencies block, the Android Gradle plugin is already applied. So we're also going to add the Objectbox plugin right below here. Just paste this in from Getting Started. Here, Objectbox Gradle plugin, which uses the Objectbox version we just defined above here. Now the next thing is we need to actually apply the plugin to a module. To do that, we're going to open the build Gradle file of the app module. In here, you can see the application of the Android Gradle application plugin. And right below that, we're going to apply the Objectbox plugin. So apply plugin IO Objectbox. Now we can go ahead and sync the project to see if everything's set up correctly. And it is. Alright. So the next thing we need to do is actually create our entities. This app is supposed to be a note-taking app, so I already went ahead and created a simple note class. It's a simple Java class. To make that an entity for Objectbox, we're going to annotate it with the entity annotation. So IO Objectbox annotation. The other thing every entity needs is an ID property. This is just a simple field annotated with @ID of type long. Just going to call this ID. And now our node's probably also going to need some properties like text, let's say, and maybe the date it was created at. Alright, now go ahead and build your project. Up here on the build, make project. This will trigger the Objectbox plugin to generate some code for us. One of the generated files is the so-called model file. This is an important file you should keep around. By default, in the project view, you can't see that. So to see it, we're going to switch here to project view. And then you can find in the app folder, in the Objectbox models folder, the file called default.json. This is the model file. Make sure to keep this around, commit this to version control, because it's important if you change the entities to support, for example, updates. You can read more details about this on the Getting Started page. Alright. Now the next thing we need to do is actually initialize Objectbox for our project. To do that, I'm going to switch back here to the Android view so we can find our way. And I already prepared an Objectbox class, a simple Java class for this, which has a static init method that takes a context, Android context. And in here, we're going to call the myObjectbox class. This was just generated by the plugin. Get the builder, pass it the Android application context, and then just call build. This will give us back a box store. This is the central interface for interacting with your Objectbox database. So we want to make this available throughout the whole app. So I'm going to create a field here so we can do just that. Assign it here, and then I'm going to add a getter. Just call it get, because that's shorter. Alright. Now we actually need to call this init method somewhere. The best place to do this in an Android application is in the application class. I already created one here. This is a simple class that extends Android app application. The only other thing you need to do is make sure to go to your Android manifest here on the left and register the application class. Now every time your app starts, the onCreate method will get called. So this is a good place to initialize Objectbox throughout the whole app. So we're just gonna call the init method, give it this application as a context, and we're done. Now, as I said, this is a note-taking app, so I already went ahead and prepared an activity that has a layout, which I can show you here, which has an edit text box, add button, so we can add a note. Then here below would be a list where it would show the notes, and we can also click a note so it is removed. So I'm going to switch back to the activity class. The central interface for storing and getting notes is the box class. So we go ahead and get our box store first, and then there's this box for method. Now we pass it in the class we want. So in this case, the entity class is note, and this returns a note box. So as I want to use this in the whole activity here, I'm going to assign this to a field up here. Assign it here. Okay, we're good. Now let's go ahead and add a note. So here's the click listener for the add button. I already extracted the text from the edit text, and now we have to actually just create the note and store it. To do that, we created an instance of the note class, give it the text, also maybe set the created add date, which is probably now. And now we're going to take the box class we just got before and call put and give it the note. And now the note's stored. Notice that I didn't set an ID up here, so I didn't write something like note ID is 12. This is because Objectbox automatically assigns an ID that's available. So once the put call returns, note will have an ID set. Alright. Now, how about we remove a note? Let's go down here. So this is called when a note is clicked on the list, and the adapter just gets the note object here. So we're gonna get our box again, and we call remove. So you have multiple options here. You can either pass it an ID, so we're just gonna give it the ID from note, or you can just give it the note itself. Because Objectbox sees that this is an entity, it will just extract the ID. Note that remove also accepts multiple IDs and multiple objects to remove. Put does as well. This is way more efficient if you're working on multiple entities, so remember that. Now the last thing we want to do is actually display a list of notes. So this is done here in this update notes method. It somehow creates a list of notes and then gives it to the notes adapter to display in the UI. So the simplest thing to get all notes would be to get our box again and call getAll. This just gets all nodes inside the box in no particular order. However, I want to sort those entities, those nodes, by the text alphabetically. So I'm going to do query. Just call .query, which gives you a query builder. Then I'm going to pass it an order. Now this requires a so-called property. These properties are inside the underscore classes, as we call them, generate for each entity. So they're just called like the entity class node with an underscore behind them. And as you can see, it has the text property, the created ads, and ID property, we just gave node we created before. So in this case, I want to sort by text alphabetically. So I'm just going to choose text. Then I'm going to build the query and call find. This will now return a list of nodes and give it to the adapter. Now let's see if that actually works. Deploy it to the device, and now we can enter a note, add it, and it's there. Just click it and it's gone again. Alright, that's it. If you want to learn more, get into more details like relations, indexes, and other stuff, check out the docs Objectbox.io page. You will find way more details there. Thank you for watching.